Good morning, Class 2H. So we have been working on our descriptive writing, and we're working up to do quite an important piece of writing this week, and something I want you to take on as a challenge to do your best and to really think about expanding yourself and pushing yourself to do some amazing writing and some longer writing than perhaps you've been doing up till this point. So for the next 2 days, we're going to imagine that we are Jack, and we are going to write a diary entry about the adventure that we have had with grandfather, the adventure we read about in the book. So today we're going to do our planning, and then tomorrow you will all write your diary entry. The focus of your writing is going to be to use all of the descriptive adjectives and planning we've been learning about while we've been studying Jack's fantastic voyage. And as I said, we're really going to push ourselves to write several sentences and to use lots of descriptive language to make our writing very interesting. So today we're just going to start by looking at the success criteria. How will you know at the end of your writing if you have been successful or not? So let's take a quick look. So the first thing that's important when you're writing a diary entry is to start with Dear Diary and a little comma. So it's your first line, and then you move into your writing, okay? The second important thing that we have to remember to do is to write in the first person. You're writing as if you are Jack. You say, I am, I was, I did, I felt, I heard. It's all about you and your experience. We looked at past and present tense verbs, and when you're writing a diary entry, you're writing about something that happened in the past, so you must use past tense verbs. As always, we want capital letters at the beginning of our sentences, and then full stops or exclamation or question marks at the end of our sentences. We want to use lots of adjectives and adverbs. And I want you to challenge yourselves to think about the conjunctions that we learned about last term and to try and put those into your writing. Make your sentences longer, connect two ideas in one sentence. So it's just more writing, or more interesting, for the reader. And then finally, we've learned about how we do descriptive writing. And we learned on Monday that we use our senses. We talk about what we saw, what we heard, maybe what you touched, what you could smell, what you could taste, and how you felt. We don't have to use all of them, but when we're doing our planning, if we think about all of them, you might get an idea of something that you want to include. So now I'm going to take you through how I would do my planning. And your task for today is to do your own planning. You're going to do a spidergram and put a little circle in the center of your page with loads of arrows and all the things that you want to include that you can remember from the story that you want to include in your big piece of writing tomorrow. All right. So this is what your page is going to look like. You could print this, or you could draw it on a piece of paper. So let me start. If Mrs. Higgins was doing a diary entry, pretending to be Jack, what planning would I do? Let's have a look. Well, I'd start, and I'd make sure I remember to write Dear Diary with a comma. Don't forget the comma. I'd need to introduce to my diary what I'm talking about. What memory am I recording in my diary? So you need an introduction line. So I went to visit grandfather in his old wooden house. We had a thrilling adventure. And you can see that I've put in bold the darker words. They're my past tense verbs. And then in italics, I've highlighted here the adjectives, okay? So you could do that in your planning. You could get a different colored pen and underline it to make sure that you remember past tense verbs. Have I put in adjectives every time I can? And then I've also remembered some capital letters and full stops. Now, this is a planning piece of paper. When we're planning, it doesn't have to be perfect. This is the only audience of your piece of planning paper is yourself. And sometimes we do it at speed. So I have included capital letters and full stops, but we don't need to be too perfect in our writing when we're planning. This is about getting our ideas down on paper. Okay, the next one I'm looking at is what I saw. So at the moment, I'm brainstorming things I might have seen that I want to include in my diary entry. So I saw towering icebergs, an icy blue ocean. Do you like my adjectives there? crashing waves and foggy air. More adjectives. I saw incredible ships that sailed merrily. Okay, so there's an adverb. An adverb comes after the verb and makes the verb more exciting, gives us more information and makes the verb more interesting. Again, my verb sailed is in the past tense. I might have seen silly seals that frolicked joyfully. Again, some adjectives and adverbs. I might have seen fierce polar bears or spouting whales. So that's Mrs. Higgins. That's what I remember from the story. You can use my ideas to help you with your planning or come up with your own. Next, I'm focusing on what I might have heard if I was Jack and I was there having this adventure with grandfather. So I've written, as we were sailing, I was aware of the deafening sound of the crashing waves. What a good sentence, eh? So descriptive. If I was to read that, I'd be very interested. What else might I have heard? The rapid swish of grandfather's arms as he raised it to indicate I should turn the huge wheel to the left or the right. Do you remember that part of the story? Maybe I want to write that I heard the mournful sound of the lighthouse foghorn. Great. Again, I've highlighted for my own use the times where I've used, make sure my verbs are in the past tense. I've highlighted where I use some adjectives. If I put in adverbs there, I would have highlighted them too. So this is what I might have touched. We're appealing to all our sentences. And if you can't remember anything you touched, it's kind of one of the harder senses to remember. You don't need to include them all, but when we're doing some brainstorming, we're trying to think about interesting pieces of information we could write into our writing. So what I might have touched, I might write that the steering wheel felt cold under my fingertips. So again, felt is in the past tense there. It's a regular past tense verb. What could I smell? Well, the air was thick with scents and spices. What a descriptive way of writing about what you could smell. Isn't that fantastic? Oops, I got the wrong way. What could you taste? The salty spray from the waves landed determinedly on my lips. Do you like that? So I've got adjectives, I've got adverbs, I've definitely got my verb in the past tense there, and it's a regular verb, it ends in ed. And then I can definitely focus on how I felt. I was terrified at first, but soon I realized that the magnificent boats were all the memories of grandfather's journey. So there you go, boys and girls. That's the planning that Mrs. Higgins has prepared. I want you today to go away and plan your writing for tomorrow. If we go back up to our success criteria, let's flash back up here really quickly. See, come on. We want to make sure in our planning that we plan to include all these things, so that when we go to do our writing tomorrow, our planning sheet is really useful for us. So boys and girls, good luck, and I'm so looking forward to seeing what ideas you come up with in your planning today.